Right, so I haven't picked up on matters in Lebanon for a while, and it's well overdue, because Lebanon is right now being squeezed from all sides, demanded to disarm Hezbollah, cede control of its security, and accept a peace that is anything but just. While Western diplomats, most notably the US envoy Thomas Barrack, dress their coercion in the language of stability and sovereignty, their real objection is strategic containment. Weaken Iran by crippling one of its most formidable regional allies. At the same time, Israel continues its undeclared war on Lebanese territory too, bombing civilians, targeting commanders, and refusing to withdraw from occupied land still. Syria, now under the militant and unelected leadership of the former al-Qaeda terrorist al-Jolani, threatens to invade Lebanon, posturing as a regional stabiliser while eyeing renewed domination of its smaller neighbour and putting him in Israel's good graces, the place he very much wants to be. So in light of all of this, Lebanon is being forced to dismantle its deterrence capability while no pressure is being applied on Israel to end its aggression or occupation. Yet ironically, in their attempt to contain Hezbollah and neuter Lebanon, Israel and Syria may be laying the groundwork for their own strategic blunders amidst all of this. Right, so the latest international push for Hezbollah's disarmament in Lebanon has come in the form of a so-called roadmap delivered by US envoy Thomas Barrack. According to reporting by AP and Reuters, this roadmap ties Hezbollah's disarmament to the conditional easing of Israeli airstrikes and economic aid to Lebanon. Now, while publicly presenting this as a Lebanese-led process, Barrack's ultimatum to Lebanon in relation to Hezbollah, to disarm or collapse, as al-Mayadeen had picked up on, was nothing less than a barely veiled threat, however. This is how to negotiate with Lebanon, apparently. They're so small, they're so weak, we'll just kick them while they're down. This so-called choice is obviously no choice at all, is it? Lebanon's economy does remain on life support somewhat. The Lebanese armed forces, the LAF, are under-equipped, and international financial institutions refuse aid without political concessions. Disarmament under such conditions is not negotiation, it is blackmail, isn't it? And it is blackmail that omits a crucial fact too. Israel remains in violation of UN Resolution 1701 by occupying Sheba Farms, the Kfar Chuba Hills, and the disputed 5 points along the border. Barrack's remarks were met with unease across Lebanon. While the ruling government of Joseph Aoun issued cautious statements, civil society groups and independent analysts decried the roadmap as a form of foreign trusteeship. Some opposition forces, including Samir Jijaya of the Lebanese forces, warned that Barrack's language, particularly references to Bilad al-Sham, echoed historical justifications for Syrian occupation of Lebanon. Street protests were limited but vocal in Beirut and Tripoli, that's Tripoli in northern Lebanon, not Libya, with demonstrators holding banners denouncing foreign diktats and demanding the end of Israeli violations first. Seems perfectly reasonable after all this time, doesn't it? Israel's presence on Lebanese land is at the core of Hezbollah's justification for retaining its arms. Since the November 2024 ceasefire, joke of a ceasefire, Israel has conducted repeated airstrikes deep into Lebanese territory. In one of the most egregious incidents, Israeli warplanes killed a woman and injured 11 civilians in Nabatea just last month, flattening a residential area under the pretext of targeting Hezbollah infrastructure. Well, where have we heard that chestnut before? The Lebanon-Israel ceasefire has been an utter farce. Israel have breached it literally thousands of times now, and that's no exaggeration, and keep on getting away with it, and yet here, now, Lebanon are the ones concessions are demanded of. Amnesty International has documented numerous instances of Israeli attacks on hospitals, ambulances and medics, with over 200 healthcare workers and patients killed since late 2023. This is not collateral damage, they are war crimes, and they are committed with impunity, as ever. In December 2024, Israeli strikes killed at least 49 civilians in separate incidents across Lebanon, with no repercussions, even during ceasefires. Israel just continued the assassinations. Just last week, Israel launched a drone strike on a vehicle in Tripoli, killing a senior Hamas operative. A day later, it killed Hezbollah commander Hussein Ali Muzir in southern Lebanon. As much as these are individuals from prescribed groups on one hand, this is clearly not restraint, nor respect for the ongoing ceasefire. It is an open-ended campaign of terror from the skies by Israeli hands. Israel's occupation of Sheba Farms and the Kfar Chuba Hills dates back to the 2024 withdrawal, when it left most of southern Lebanon but retained these areas, and still to this day they refuse to leave them. The lack of resolution has created a permanent justification for continued resistance. Therefore, Hezbollah's refusal to disarm is based on two irrefutable facts. Israel continues to occupy Lebanese land and repeatedly violates Lebanon's sovereignty, and the Lebanese state lacks the capacity to defend itself, though of course they have that right. Why else did Israel demand as conditions of the ceasefire that Hezbollah disarm and leave the south of Lebanon and be replaced by the Lebanese armed forces? Israel know who it would be rather fighting. Hezbollah has made clear that it will not surrender its arsenal until Israel withdraws from all Lebanese territory, including Sheba Farms and the Kfar Tuba Hills. This hardly seems unreasonable given this is Lebanese territory. It is their sovereignty, their right to defend themselves. Even those in Lebanon who oppose Hezbollah's political influence understand that surrendering arms under threat while their land remains occupied would be politically suicidal, and Hezbollah are, after all, also a political entity, in case anybody had forgotten that. Moreover, the LAF is underfunded and politically constrained. The idea that it can absorb Hezbollah's military responsibilities without massive reform and foreign guarantees is frankly a fantasy. Any unilateral disarmament would simply leave Lebanon open to Israeli air superiority or, increasingly, to Syrian infiltration. The most shocking development in the crisis is the return of Syrian designs on Lebanon. Since the rise of the al-Jolani-led regime, Syria has shifted away from Iran and towards an aggressive Salafi nationalist posture, religious extremists who want to align themselves with Israel and the West. While claiming to seek stability, and as the Cradle have covered, Damascus has accused Hezbollah of undermining Lebanese sovereignty and hinted at intervention if Beirut fails to disarm the group. Al-Jolani's ideological departure from the Assad era is a stark one, even if both are or were representable regimes. Where Assad aligned with Iran and allowed Hezbollah to operate across the Syria-Lebanon axis, Al-Jolani has repositioned Syria as a block to that. He's forged quiet ties with Gulf states and framed Hezbollah as a sectarian irritant, a puppet of Tehran undermining Arab unity, and there are real military implications for this. This rhetoric has been backed by action. Syrian forces have begun cracking down on Hezbollah-linked smuggling routes near the border, and Lebanese media has reported suspicions, though denied by the LAF, of Syrian-aligned extremist infiltration attempts already into Lebanon, as shown by the Cradle a moment ago as well. Syria is effectively threatening to destabilise Lebanon in order to save it from Hezbollah and Iranian influence. But a Syrian intervention would provoke not only Hezbollah, but likely draw in Iran to defend Hezbollah, and potentially ignite a regional war once again. Al-Jolani may believe he can reshape Lebanon in his image, but like Israel, he's underestimating Hezbollah, and where Lebanon itself might be rather isolated, Hezbollah are not quite so much. Iran would come to their aid for Hezbollah's sake rather than as Lebanon as a whole, but still it would make a difference. What makes this crisis uniquely perverse is the international response to it, though. Lebanon is being asked to disarm the only force capable of resisting Israeli aggression and Syrian encroachment right now, whilst those very aggressors face no consequences at all. How is that right? Israel is allowed to violate Lebanese airspace daily, to occupy disputed territory, to assassinate across borders. Syria is allowed to threaten occupation and operate with impunity. Meanwhile, any resistance from Lebanon is framed as terrorism or a breach of that stupid ceasefire, which really isn't one. Hezbollah is branded a destabiliser, not a defender. The Lebanese government is pressured to concede. The price of Western aid is submission, not to international law, but to geopolitical interests, those of Israel and Syria. But ironically, it's both Israel and Syria that may soon come to regret their current strategies. By continuing to strike Lebanon while demanding disarmament, Israel ensures that Hezbollah's narrative remains valid and supported by the Lebanese people, that only armed resistance can defend Lebanon because nobody else is coming to the rescue. Every missile strike, every assassination, every child buried under rubble reinforces the logic of resistance. Syria too may find its ambitions backfiring. By threatening intervention, it is uniting Lebanese factions, many of whom have no love for Hezbollah at all, against a return to Syrian rule, Syria having occupied Lebanon from 1976 through to 2005, across all of the Lebanese civil war era. Christian parties like the Lebanese Forces have already warned of a creeping trusteeship. Sunni communities fear that any Syrian entry, with extremist elements like HTS obviously leading now, will trigger sectarian conflict. If Lebanon collapses under external pressure, both Syria and Israel may face uncontrollable consequences. A fractured Lebanon could become a playground for rival militias, refugee flows and regional proxy wars, a return to civil war in Lebanon. Israeli border communities would be less secure, not more. Syria's attempt to project power could backfire into prolonged insurgency and international isolation. The lesson of Iraq and Syria's own civil war should be clear. Dismantling fragile states breeds monsters. Al-Jolani should especially realise that. He is one after all. Lebanon is not a failed state, it's a sabotaged state. Sabotaged by Israeli bombs, by Syrian ambition and by Western hypocrisy. The demand to disarm Hezbollah while Israel occupies and bombs Lebanon is not peacekeeping, it's surrender. And it is being resisted for that good reason. If the international community wishes to see Hezbollah disarmed, it must first force Israel to fully withdraw from all Lebanese land and end its air war there. It must condemn Syria's threats and reassert that Lebanon's sovereignty is not a bargaining chip. And most importantly, it must recognise that peace cannot be achieved through coercion and double standards. Because if this pressure campaign continues unchecked, it will not break Hezbollah, it will break Lebanon. And in doing so, it will unleash the very instability Israel and Syria and US fools like Tom Barrack claim that they fear. It's not like these latest attempts to get Hezbollah to disarm are going to have any more luck than they've had previously anyway. In fact, the last attempt at this backfired on Netanyahu completely. Get all the details of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as spreading the word and helping support the channel at the very same time, which is very much appreciated, holding power to account for ordinary working class people, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.